I had some doubts when Matt Rhule was first announced as head coach, and one of the main issues I thought we'd have to see him work through was recruiting. And to be fair, half the staff was coming from the NFL, and a few had never held Power 5 jobs for longer than 2 or 3 seasons. But my God, these guys went on an absolute tear. They addressed the line of scrimmage, the lack of depth at quarterback. They retained almost every starter fans were afraid would leave in the portal. And on top of all that, they gave us some serious hope that Nebraska will be in play for a top 10 recruiting class in just their first year together. I know it's just one piece of the puzzle, and although recruiting's been great, we still haven't seen the product they're going to put on the field come August. But we still got 9 months to watch them build, and for now, I'm going to enjoy these December wins. So today, we'll talk about the updates from signing day, Nebraska's newest portal commit, and what I learned from the press conference. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, make sure you hit the subscribe button below because we're less than 500 subs away from hitting 17,000. And if you want to see a ranking for the new signees, hit the like button now and help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
Yet across midfield. Touchdown, Nebraska. Omar Manning.
I'm starting today off with a storyline that'll be one of the main focuses all the way through August. And for those who haven't paid much attention this past week, Casey Thompson's dad confirmed that they'd be back for another year as the starting quarterback at Nebraska. And Casey just had shoulder surgery to repair a torn labrum, but he's already started the recovery and he should be 100% good to go by May, which is almost 2 months before fall camp starts back up. And his dad also mentioned that Rhule was honest about his intentions to take a QB from the portal in this class, and as we saw a few days ago, Nebraska ended up landing Jeff Sims from Georgia Tech to come in and compete for that spot. Now, as you'd expect, a Nebraska fan dropped a comment on Instagram saying that Thompson versus Sims would be a great battle to watch, implying that there's going to be a QB competition for that starting job this summer. And Casey was quick to react with a quote saying, "What battle? Who said there's a battle?" Now, confidence is one thing, but damn, Casey marked his territory. That would be like me seeing a girl on a date with a guy at a bar and being so confident that I tell the girl out loud that her boyfriend's a speed bump, not a stop sign. That takes some balls, and most would just keep that thought to themselves, but Casey's comment implies that he doesn't think there's a battle because, number one, he's the clear starter, or two, Sims was brought in to be the backup. Based on what Rhule said at the presser yesterday, every QB is going to get a chance this spring, so whether Casey thinks there's a battle or not, unlike last year, the QB job isn't Casey's to lose. It's anybody's to win. My take last night was that Jeff Sims would beat Casey out for the job, and most of you didn't agree, but I've got this gut feeling telling me that Sims is going to be a problem. And speaking of last night, I went live to talk about the class and I gave you my instant reaction to Rhule's first ever signing day at Nebraska. And we had over 900 live viewers for almost 2 hours straight. So if you were there, thank you for being a part of that. And I did a live interview with Marquise Buford back in July, and we only had about 250 live viewers on that one. So the stream numbers just keep getting bigger, and I'm definitely going to have to do another player interview soon. But I want to talk about the tweet that went out during the show, because Matt Rhule tweeted out a countdown, and a few minutes later, he dropped an alarm clock that read 24 hours. And we were all trying to decode the hidden meaning, but after I hopped off last night and I stopped overthinking it, I realized it's just a slogan for this next class, and that Rhule's basically saying they're getting to work on the 2024 guys. And I get a lot of messages and emails from players' family and friends or other people who are close to the program, but I don't really share any info unless I'm really confident in what I hear. But one thing I am comfortable in sharing is that the number one QB in 2024 is calling other Nebraska targets to see where they stand. So if I was going to give you one bold take after hearing multiple stories over these last couple days, it's that Dylan's looking for reasons to come to Nebraska, not reasons to turn Rhule down. I just saw some posts on Twitter sharing a screenshot of Ben Scott on his mom's Facebook with the caption, "Just happened, Ben's a Husker." And Ben responded to a tweet about him drinking eggnog while Nebraska fans freak out. And that all but confirmed he's going to be announcing soon. He was a 2-year starter on the offensive line at Arizona State. In 2021, he was their right tackle, and last season, he lined up at center. And since Nebraska needs help at both spots, we'll see where Rhule'S decides to use him. He's 6'5", 310 pounds, and PFF had him graded out as the number 17 overall center in 2021. And Ben took visits to UCLA and Auburn, so if he actually is signing with Nebraska, which I think he is, he might go down as the most important pickup in this entire transfer class. Actually, since he can start immediately on Nebraska's line, it's safe to say this guy is the most important part of this class. And don't forget, Dominic Rhule'S came to Lincoln 2 weeks ago to meet with Ben on his official visit since they're both from Hawaii. So yeah, I would say this is an appropriate time to take a sip. Today's video is brought to you for free by our sponsor BroThrow, the #1 peer-to-peer sports betting site, and I think the only one I've ever heard of. And tonight I took the Jets against the Jags, and I lost to Mitchell, who's a subscriber, and one of the dudes who had me down an Irish car bomb the last time I was out in Lincoln. But I just paid him out on Venmo with my winnings from Air Force, and I live to fight another day. You can join our Corn Craze group for free at brothrow.com/GBR. And if you're a regular player who bets on the NFL, college football, or any other sport, they just dropped a $15 monthly membership that gives you access to more perks on the site and boosts your credit line so you can bet more money as you win. And now that I'm a member, I've been using the BetSync feature so that my open bets move as the line adjusts. And I'm tracking which sports and which teams I win on the most so I don't end up chasing the wrong teams who never end up covering for me. BroThrow's available in all 50 states. You don't have to make a deposit since you're paid out on Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. And most importantly, you don't pay a VIG, so you make more money on your wins than you would on any other app or any of these sports books out there. And our group has almost 800 members so far, so if you bet on sports at all and you want a better site to place bets, I can confirm BroThrow's the best one. Now let's get into my notes from the presser and my 5 biggest takeaways from signing day. Starting off with number 1, Rhule's going all in on in-state recruiting. When you look at Nebraska's On3 class profile, the first thing you see under the overall ranking is the percentage of in-state signees. And they're at 38% today, which is significantly higher than it's been in the past 5 years. And if you go back to 2018 and the last staff's transition, in-state guys only accounted for 4% of that class. To be fair, this is one of the strongest in-state classes ever, and 13 Nebraska players signed with Power 5 schools. But Matt Rhule's focus on Nebraska kids isn't going unnoticed. In the presser yesterday, Rhule made a few comments that support the fact that he's going to keep recruiting the state hard. He said the key to long-term success is for every kid in Nebraska to dream of playing in Lincoln the same way Brock Knutson did. And to make that a reality, they have to see others in front of them do it first. And after watching the last staff miss on a few of the top in-state recruits, the Rhule approach gives me a lot more confidence going forward. Number 2, the offensive line and Donovan Rhule'S are going to make a significant jump. One of the most notable comments Rhule made at the presser was that he didn't buy into the idea that the offensive line was a problem. He chalked up the unfortunate happenings to the offense lacking a true identity, and that although he likes the guys who are currently in the room, they need to be put into better situations. My biggest takeaway from his comments about the line was that when they were coaching in Carolina, Marcus Satterfield was the offensive line coach, and now that he's Nebraska's OC, he understands the importance of building an offense that can work with the line. Because in the past, Nebraska ran an offense that prioritized the skill, and the line ended up suffering because of that. When asked about retaining Donovan Rhule'S, Rhule pointed out that there was somewhat of a mutual connection because Donovan was trained in the same system by the brother-in-law of the coach who Rhule worked under when he was in the NFL. And there are 3 base philosophies when it comes to O-line coaching, and it sounds like they both teach the same one. On top of the coaching fit, Rhule said the vibe was positive, Rhule'S fit in with the rest of the staff, and that not one returner in the room had anything bad to say about him. This hire was clearly about much more than recruiting one player. Number 3, there will be an open QB competition, even with a returning starter on the roster. The first day this staff got to campus, Casey was asked to come back for another year, for obvious reasons. But we all saw how rough the offense looked without him in, so going after a QB in the portal was inevitable. And Rhule told the story about his connection to Jeff Sims, former head coach at Georgia Tech, and he explained that while he was at Carolina, he'd watched Jeff play, and he had noticed back then that he was a big, smart, dynamic athlete who was accurate from the pocket. So before Jeff even entered the portal, Rhule knew that was a guy who fit the style of offense he wanted to run. The most important point he made about quarterbacks was that you never know which guys are going to leave, so you better have some depth. And he followed that up with praise for the QB room and that he doesn't care what they've done in the past. It's about what they can do now. All signs point to this spring being a completely open QB competition, so by summer, Satterfield should know who his top 3 are. And if I had to guess, that 10-man room is going to slim down to 7 by July after a few guys enter the portal. And again, I've got no horse in the race, so may the best man win. Number 4, the winning strategy at Nebraska is different from the winning strategy at Temple or Baylor. And I've seen plenty of comments about the assistant coaching experience and questions about whether or not their past scheme would fit in with Nebraska. And my response has been that I assume the coordinators are coming in to run what Rhule believes is going to work in the Big Ten. And based on the presser comments, I think that's true. He made a point about the same core philosophies being kept, but that the ways his teams won in the past aren't the ways you win at Nebraska. Because in the Big Ten, the weather's different, and there are other factors that go into building a team that can compete in the various climates. We know he wants to emphasize the O&D line, and based on the first round of signees, that's held true. But here's one of the best Matt Rhule quotes of the day. We want to be an old school program with a new school look. We're going to do things the modern way, but with old school values. Nebraska had an identity that got lost over time, and this staff has to find the balance between being the tough, blue-collar, Midwest monster it once was, blended with the fresh, modern ideas that can attract the best talent from all across the country. Number 5, NIL won't be the main attraction. There was a point last year when Nebraska had picked up O'Shawn and Casey in the portal, and a lot of us felt like because the NIL opportunity was so significant, this might be the trend going forward and it could help offset the Midwest recruiting struggle. But Matt Rhule made a point that he's not interested in guys asking how much money they can make. He wants the players who are focused on developing and ultimately playing in the NFL. And he said NIL is awesome when it's done right, and that he won't let Nebraska turn into one of those schools who abuses it, bends the rules, tampers with players, or anything else that would attract the wrong type of person into the program. But whether money's a leader in the discussion or not, everybody knows there are opportunities to get paid in Lincoln with such a massive fan base. So even if Matt Rhule says he won't allow that to take over a conversation with a recruit, that'll still be a bonus to keep the best performers locked in and out of the portal. The more we hear from the coaches, the more we see in recruiting, and the more positive energy starts to flow back into the football program, the more excited I am to watch this 2023 team come together. I'm fully on board with the wait and see before we drink too much Kool-Aid going into the season. But at this point, I feel pretty good about claiming another Big Ten offseason championship. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Who do you think the most important player is that signed this week? Is Jeff Sims going to challenge Casey for QB1, or is that spot already locked up? And if you had to rank Rhule against Sanders and Fickle today, who wins in their first month as head coach at their new school? I've got plenty of content ideas to pump out over the next month or so, but I might not see you until after Christmas. So until next time, thank you for being here. Merry Christmas to all, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.